If you are an estate agent, letting agent, or someone who is interested in the UK property market, then this YouTube show, the UK Property Market Stat Show, is for you. Each and every week, myself, Chris Watkin, with a special guest, looks at what's been happening in the UK property market at the top end of the funnel. As I've said many weeks and will continue to say all the time, the vast majority of UK statistics on the property market are based on the bottom end of the funnel, with data that's 3, 6, even 9 months old, like the land registry. The land registry figures that are being reported today are for sales that took place at the back end of the autumn. In fact, probably late summer. And then you've got the Nationwide and Halifax stats, which are based on mortgage offers, which is based on sales that took place around Christmas time and sales agreed that took place thereafter. This is right here, right now, as Fat Boy Slim says. And we're looking at what's happening with properties coming on the market, price reductions, sales, and everything else to do with that. Why is that important? Well, if you know what's happening in the property market to demand and supply, that will give you a big indication of what's going to happen to house prices down the line. Today, I've got a returning guest in Kristian Stott. Stotty, as he's known in the industry, is big in the game, and he knows his onions when it comes to property. Thanks for joining me today, Kristian.
Hello, Chris. How are you?
Very good. Thank you, mate. You're looking really well there, mate. So,
thank you. It's summertime.
There you go. We're kicking back. It's nice and easy. So we are dealing with week 27, Kristian, which is Monday, the 3rd of July to Sunday, the 9th of July, inclusive. And that is week 27 of this fair year. We're going to actually should we dive straight in and have a look at those Stataroonies? Here we go. So we're starting off with listings, and we've taken feedback from you wonderful people in UK, and we've just changed the order slightly of what the graphs we do. And the first graph we're looking at is the number of listings that we've had this week, and we're comparing ourselves against 17, 18 and 19. The colours are on the screen now. We've listed as a country 34,358 properties this week. And just to give you some guidance, the week before was 34,230. The week before that, 36, and then another 36. Let's have your thoughts on this, Kristian.
Public schools broke up. State schools have got another 2 weeks to go. We're sort of moving towards the summertime. Not an unexpected change in the number. Be interested to see what happens in the next couple of weeks from now as the state schools start to break up, whether those numbers start to plummet in terms of new instructions to market or whether they hold up. But I mean, certainly it's not unusual for that to happen.
We can quite clearly say there that the number of listings does drift slightly as we go into later July, early August. We're not the roller coaster that we have in the April and May time when we have Easter and the May bank holidays. And you can quite clearly see with the graph that's on the screen now. For those of you listening on the podcast, download the graphics, which you can see, and we're dealing with UK Property Market Stat Show slide and graph 1. Again, these are available to download both on the podcast and on the YouTube link. You go and look, you can use them for your own personal benefit. And you can quite clearly see that the summertime when it comes to listings is just just a pretty flat pond. I think the magic thing there is, and what we've got to remember is that if that starts shooting up with lots of people putting their houses on the market, that is the initial alarm bell that we need to that will herald potential house price drops. Remember, that's what's happened in 2007, 2008, when what happened is house prices fell off a cliff, and that primarily that was to do with too much supply and not enough demand. Thoughts, Kristian? I jumped in there.
No, it's all right. Where's your price? You said you've reordered the graph. Where's price to market?
Okay.
Because right. I think that's...
There's your graph. So price to market is 431. Last week it was 442,000. The week before 449.
Yeah, and then the week before that 450. The week before that 459. So from week 23, the beginning of June to now, the beginning of July, the average price to market has dropped by 30 grand.
which if you think about it is a 9% drop. That doesn't mean, boys and girls, that house prices have dropped by 9%. It's the average asking price of the properties coming onto the market. Interestingly, the average for the year is 434,222. This particular...
So maybe there was a big pump of positivity, 4-6 weeks ago. But I think you're right. If we see a big uplift in the number of new instructions to market, simultaneously matched with a decline in that price, that could be a beacon for us.
Again, boys and girls, in estate and letting agency land, is my advice to you would be, if you want to judge a property market, what first thing I'll do is go onto Rightmove or what other platform property portal you like. So I live in Grantham, so the first thing I will do is I will do a search for Grantham, including sold subject to contract, and that number might come in at 500, right? What I then do is then I untick this include sold subject to contract under offer buttons, which then takes that down to 300. I'm just using nice round numbers here, Kristian. So that means that 200, because that's what the sold, that was unticking of the box, was the sold buttons. 200 of the 500 is 40%, and therefore 40% of the properties being on the market at the moment are sold subject to contract. And anything between 30 and 40% is considered a balanced market. Anything over 40% is considered a seller's market. Anything below 30% is considered a buyer's market. And by judging where you are and doing that once a month, you can get a flavour of where the market is going before anyone else. So keep an eye on that one. If you are a homeowner or someone who's particularly, what you could do, especially if you're in a big, not baby villages, but probably big towns, is just do that search on your particular type and the one you want to buy. So if you're looking for 4-bedroom detached houses, how many 4-bedroom detached houses on the market, including sold subject to contract, then take them off and then take one from the other. And that gives you a percentage of where you are in the marketplace. And that shows you demand and supply very, very quickly. Right, let's get back. Number of new instructions compared to the previous week, 27s. Again, nothing really to say there, really. It's just always good to see. Again, just jump in if you do see something. And a cumulative year to date, we have listed 888,278 properties. So we are obviously still behind 2020 because we had that, we had 2 months where nothing happened. But, there's no problems with listings here, is there?
No. And like you say, I don't know how much to read into that price point as to what's coming to the market and the price it's coming at. I think there is some fear that transaction volumes could be down by the end of the year. But certainly you're right, listings are climbing, aren't they?
Well, we're going to be looking at that. I mean, interestingly, the difference, the number, just to give you an idea, the average number of properties coming on the market each week is 32,800, and the number selling is 22,000, which means that there's a 10,000 difference. But this is the bit that's going to mess your mind. Withdrawals are really high at the moment, and we're running on average of between 8,000 and 10,000 a week coming off the market, which means the general level of available stock isn't growing that much. It's growing a little bit since the new year, but it's not growing at 10,000 a month. It really isn't.
There's no real way of knowing how many of those relist as well.
There isn't. But then again, if it did relist and go on the market with another agent, then the net levels of I mean, if you just fill for a second, I will actually just give you some actual hard numbers on that one. So keep filling, mate, and I will find you some stats.
Okay, filling about withdrawals. Well, look, I think it's a dangerous number because it's work you've done, isn't it? It's money you're burning.
Okay, then. Well, the stats are in already. At the start of January, there were 500. Okay, so we'll just pull up the magical. Hold on a second. Let's just pull up the. Here we go. So at the start of January 23, 531,000 properties on the market, and 6 months later, 638. Okay, so that's only a growth That's only a growth of around 18,000 a month, which works out at about 4,000 a month net. Okay, so that's interesting, isn't it? Right.
It'd be interesting to get some agent feedback for reasons to why stuff's withdrawing. It could be that price expectations got no way of being met. It could be that onward purchase is clouded by financial decision making. I'd be really intrigued to see what feedback agents are getting from their customers as they come away from the market as to why really it's happening. But those are fulsome numbers.
Yeah, I mean, don't forget that the number of properties available for sale back in 2008 was hovering around the 1.4 million mark. So we're gone an awful long way before we get to those awful times. And again, so just keep an eye on your own market, and I'll keep you up to speed with regard to the national stuff. Let's move on to house price changes, and in terms of the number of house prices that are changed this week, we've changed. It's the highest week since the start of the year, with changing prices of 23,961. What's your thoughts on this? Are we exchanging? Are we reducing enough of the properties? I mean, we shouldn't have to reduce them if they're rightly priced.
Well, rightly priced at what point in time? How much of these came to the market at a price that didn't necessarily meet with the expectation of market and have been adjusted coincidentally? Is it indicative? Just actually, before we say that, where are we? National price changed 23, 22, 23. So the numbers aren't ballooning, are they? It may be higher than was in 22, but they're not ballooning for the year to date compared to other weeks of this year.
I mean, unfortunately, I haven't got the stats to hand in terms of the number of price changes. But if we actually look at the number of price changes compared to the available stock, based on 23,000, and I'll just add up the last three. There you go. So therefore, the total number of reductions in the last month is 93,244, with a stock level of 605. That gives us a reduction rate of around 15.5%, 16%. So therefore, we are reduced on a month-by-month basis, 1 in 6 houses. Now, if we are and house prices, the prices that are being achieved today are not what was being achieved a year ago. Anyone that says that has been at the happy pipe. Is 16% enough? I don't know. Again, it all depends on what you put.
Well, you've got a running average year to date 23 of 18,945, and we're up now at nearly 24,000 for the month. So it's definitely above average as national price change volume for the year to date.
Yes, but again, I'm talking about the number of properties that are being reduced. Again, we can talk to the cows come home, and what I would say to you, boys and girls of estate and letting agency land, we haven't got the answers. We're just giving you the stats. We're giving you our opinion. If you can bring your own opinion and thoughts to this. Hey, if you've got the what's names about it, why don't you put your opinions in the YouTube comments? Put your head above the parapet. Let's move on. Let's get back to the stats, and we'll bring it back. You're looking very dark, mate. So there you go. That's what. Yeah.
Says no one ever about the red-faced ginger guy. I love it. I'm going to sort of stare more at my chicken warmer here, and hopefully it gives my face
because again, it's because you've got that you've got that bright light with the window, which means the camera's compensating. If you just turn,
and I cannot move the sun.
There you go.
The sun's staying right where it is.
Okay, so the average price of a property being reduced, 421. The average price of a property being reduced this year is coming in at, move that to the side there, £407,000. But again, just shows you that the more middle range properties are reducing. Let's move on and let's get to what everyone's interested in, which is gross sales. Okay, and we have sold 21,258 this week. The running average is 22,328. We are now below the running average for the last 8 weeks. Apart from 1 week, we've been above the running average. This is the first time, apart from Easter bank holiday, or was it the coronation weekend, that we've slipped back below the running average.
Yeah, and a high number of price
though,
changes.
I would expect
Chris?
that. I would expect, the simple fact is that the newspaper's been ramming down hard news newspapers, that some people, you know, and the mortgage rates are tough for people. I'm also hearing, we're going to get on in a second to Sale Fall Thrus. Fall Thrus are up as well. But again, I would expect that. Anyone who's got rose-tinted glasses saying everything is fine, it is hard work out there as an estate agent, isn't it? What are you hearing with your clients?
Same. Not enough to go around. I think that there's still an immense positivity about the market, but these current sort of pricements, I think people are focused on because we don't know how long it's going to go on for and where it's going to end, and we certainly don't yet know exactly what interest rates are going to feel like over the next 12 to 18 months and what impact that's going to have. I think there is, you know, we're at that do it now or don't do it phase of the year for people that need to be moved in by autumn. What have we got of summer now? What? We've got 8 weeks of nothing happening at all. And yeah, I'm intrigued by the numbers that price change is reasonably high and sales agreed looks slightly lower. I think that's going to fall off a cliff in 2 weeks' time when everybody breaks up. But I think that's an interesting number and one to watch over the next 4 or 5 sessions that you do. Okay,
well, I mean, look, if you look back here, we can see here in 2017, the number of house sales fell off the cliff here. Now, what would be interesting is if we extended this graph in to see if again, we don't know how the weeks fall, whether that took place in 19 and 18. Who knows? Again, if you have your thoughts, please put them into the YouTube comments. Gross sales to date 602,000, and the average price of a property being sold this week £363,000. Now this is, you know me, I'm really into this. The price of a property selling is hardly changing in the UK all throughout the whole of 23. Okay, so the average is 359, and we've been bobbling around anywhere between 300, late 340s at the start of the year, and bobbling around the 360, 370 mark. And then if we compare that with, let's just get that moved up, there we go. And we get that compared to what's happening in the weeks. You can see that on the screen now. Number of properties sold, 21,000. Again, we're expecting these sales, aren't we? Are the doom mongers right? Or are we just shouldn't be worried too much? What do you think?
I think we say that every time we talk, don't we? Affordability has changed. There's no arguing about that. People have less money to spend on houses as it stands than they did last year. Are there indicators here which look like doom? I don't think these are doomy. There are moving numbers.
I'm of the opinion that, you know, we've got some Sale Fall Thrus. Affordability is an issue, especially when you're taking mortgages of 6%, which means some people are put off, you know. But this, you know, the simple fact is there's still plenty of people buying out there. You know, mortgages account for around what was it? Let me get the stats on that one. Keep filling and I'll find the stats on that. So this is the difference.
I don't know what you were going to say, but you are going to talk about the fact that a significant proportion of the market doesn't need mortgage and is cash. Therefore, it doesn't affect them. I still think, though, a lot of the numbers we look at are underpinned by mortgage purchases and, you know, finance buying. It's a substantial portion of the active market.
I mean, certainly, I mean, first-time buyers account for 53% of all mortgage purchases in the last 12 months. But then what you've got to remember is that there's a hell of a lot of sales. So actually, when you work it out, first-time buyers are buying around a third of houses at the moment and continue to do so. This is an interesting stat for you.
That's a nice number. That is a nice number. Okay. Do you think actually, no, we'll talk about that later. Go on.
At the moment, first-time buyer mortgages are accounting. This is in Q2, so just ending at the end of June. These are figures from nationwide. If you roll the clock back 18 months, mortgage payments that took into account UK 29% of the profit, 29% of the household budget, and today it's 39%. That's quite eye-watering, isn't it?
It's frightening.
Until you remember that it was 48.4% in 1989.
But in 1989, people didn't have 2 cars on the drive and a brand new iPhone.
Choices.
Yeah.
Choices.
It's a different world. No one drank at Costa or Starbucks in 89. It was that horrible Nescafe stuff that made your breath smell.
Don't go to Starbucks. Don't get the new iPhone. Don't go on holiday. You've got a choice in this world, haven't you? I'm sorry to,
Always.
That's what it is. You either keep the roof over your head. And remember, most people have been stress tested up to 6 or 7%. I do know for a fact that that didn't take into account the fact is that food price inflation, everything's gone through the roof. But you do have, people have got a choice. And do remember, estate letting agents, is this: if you're talking to someone who is putting their house on the market because the mortgage is, how many valuers will actually get the kudos of getting the listing, when in reality, probably the best advice you could say is, have you spoken to your mortgage arranger to go on an interest-only mortgage or extend the term from like a 20-year up to a 35? Okay.
I think that these circumstances do increase the number of non-discretionary sales. People that have to go maybe because they're getting divorced or whatever. So I think the implications of affordability do stretch a little bit wider than just cancelling Netflix and stopping the coffee bill. We would expect to see a few more of those, but I don't know. I don't know whether it's. I think the other side to it is this, which you didn't just say, but I think it's relevant. For a long period of time, we've been getting free money. If you lent me a tenner, I wouldn't expect you to do so on interest rates of below 2%. I'd expect to pay you a lot more than that. So we've gotten used to borrowing money without really having to pay for it, and that's something we've got to get unused to rather quickly.
Do you think we as an industry should be more empathetic to homeowners with regard to their situation and not just look at for another listing?
I think that's all the industry should do.
I know it should be happening, but I'm just being straight with you that there's going to be some agents that just use this because, an awful lot of estate agents, especially some that work for the corporates, get paid on listings. When in reality, that might...
Yeah, look, it's a difficult one, Chris. If you look at things from purely a P&L perspective, you've got to fill the funnel at the top to put the cash in the bank at the other end. And you've got to do that irrespective of how empathetic and sincere your journey is with that customer. However, if you look at it on the flip side, you could say that being more empathetically focused will give you a better business in the end. But I think realistically, most home movers, for whatever circumstance, require a degree of empathy. And if you can't contribute that to your sales bundle, you're missing a trick.
I would agree with you that the vast majority of estate agents do show empathy and don't just do stuff to hit targets, but there is a decent sized large minority that don't see that. And again,
I think the one thing that's probably important is you need the listing either way. So I suppose there's an element that says get the listing first and then worry about how much empathy you give it, rather than giving empathy first and wondering why you didn't get the listing, because you've got to have the listing either way, because that's what drives business. You can be as empathetic as you like. If you've got nothing for sale, your cash flow is a problem.
It's a balancing one, but I mean, how often have you been out to a property, agent A says 300, agent B says 300, white boy puts it on at 350. And the problem is that the estate, when the white boy then takes it down to 330 and then 310, it's now become market stale. And the thing is, though, the homeowner doesn't go back to A or B; they go to agent D because they don't want to feel embarrassed going back to the agent that told them the truth. I think we as estate agents should be better at making it easy for people to come back to us. Just a thought. Yeah,
I agree with that. I love the statement, telling the truth. I think there's a lot in that in terms of how you tell the truth. If if you work from the premise there's automatic distrust in the conversation, then telling the truth just isn't enough. It's being able to prove it and make it unarguably credible that that is the truth, that really is real. And I think the problem is that from the customer's perspective, the valuer says 390 versus the valuer who says 350. They're both telling as much of the truth as they could manage in that conversation, and that's the problem. I think if one says 340 and here is unarguable evidence as to how I have reached that conclusion, I think it's a different conversation, but I don't think it's necessarily done. I think
some vendors don't want the truth either. It's a difficult one, and the estate agency is a difficult game. Let's get back to the stats. UK net stats on a week-by-week basis. That pink line's going down, isn't it?
Yeah, I was just looking at the number there. It's also, if you look at it, in fact, I'll give it to you now. It's also declining for the year that we are in, not just versus year on year. Running average 17,100 year to date for 23. Only 4 weeks ago it was 18,000, and now we're looking at 14.8. I think that's quite a big decline, Chris, especially with quite a high number of price changes. Going back a few slides, I think it's an interesting decline.
Yeah, I mean, to give you an idea of we started off in January around 16, going into February 17, 18, going into April 18, 19, then we were going to the 19 and 20s, and then we were getting to May 2021, and then we've been on a very slow drop since. We need to keep an eye on this net sales. We're still 93% of the average of 17, 18 and 19. So let's not beat ourselves up too much. Look at 17 at 477. But again,
you know what though, Chris, if you look at fixed costs, if fixed costs have gone up by 7% in that time frame, 7% drops, big number.
Yeah, so that means we have to, as estate agents, need to put our fees up. And again, if you are going to get, when you are an estate agent and you're trying to get property on the market, it's all about putting the right property on at the right price, the right fee for you. And that's a challenging thing. But I think what you've got to remember, and I find it fascinating that estate agents and continued professional development don't tend to mix. I don't know about you, but away from the corporates, I can't get beyond those fingers, the number of estate agency trainers who can develop, not train, develop estate agents on sales psychology, on how people make decisions. And, when was the last time you went on some development on how to get better fees? Not you personally, but that's an open question. It's shocking. I don't know about you, I can't name more than 8 trainers between 14,000 estate agents. They must be running around like headless chickens, or no one's ringing them, because your old manual from Countrywide from 20 years ago ain't going to cut the mustard anymore, is it? Am I being awful?
I also feel, Chris, that there probably isn't an agent in the whole of the country that doesn't know they would like larger fees, doesn't know that they would need larger fees. And actually, I don't believe there's an estate agent in the UK that doesn't know some tips and tricks or has learned from philanthropically shared content how to get higher fees. I think when you're sat on that sofa and you are feeling like you might not be the agent of choice, you've still got to get the instruction. And I think the problem is that cash flow, fixed costs, and running the business dictates that often you can't afford to risk the fee you might lose versus the fee you're going to get. It's a really challenging proposition. And I think when you're listing at a very high volume and you've got a marketing machine that attracts almost a greater number of valuations than you can physically service, you can go in and punt a good fee. But I think if you don't enjoy that luxury, you've got to win that deal. You've got to get the job.
So how do estate agents break that cycle of the constant chasing of being able to take a step back and working on their long game so people become an attraction agent, whilst at the same time constantly at the coalface trying to chip away and get whatever fee they can?
I think that is probably up there with, is 42 the meaning of life? I think that's one of the biggest questions that there is, Chris, because I think it's really complex. I think if anything, if you discount, you don't believe, and believing is a first thing to change. You know, you've got to believe you're worth the money, and you've got to believe that what you do is worth the money. And you know, I was talking to someone earlier actually, and this was a topic of conversation, but I think that if you'd talked to a chiropractor or a plumber and said, I'd like you to do as much work over the next 150 days as an estate agent would do, how much does that cost? You wouldn't be able to afford it. And I think agents don't genuinely recognize and add up what they do and how much they bring to each transaction. And I think if agents actually converted their labor force into hourly rates and divided their sales by those hourly rates, I think they'd be quite shocked at how much money they force into the pockets of their customers.
It's a challenging time, boys and girls, but what I would say to you is this: use this time, if you're going away for a week on holiday, just reflect back at what makes you so good as an estate agent. Believe your worth, and seriously consider, as I keep banging on, you don't need to pay me or anyone to do this. We've got this thing called the internet and social media. Join local Facebook groups. Which town are you in, Kristian?
Worcester.
So again, stay humour me on this. Where do 100% of Worcester owner-occupiers live?
Oh, sorry. Where do they live? On
Where
Facebook?
No, where do they physically live? Where do 100% of owner-occupiers live? In Worcester. In Worcester. Yeah?
Oh, right. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's obvious.
Yeah, they do. They definitely hear. Yeah.
Who's the only people that join Worcester Facebook groups and Worcester primary school Facebook groups? People from, come on,
Worcester.
Worcester. Boys and girls, join those local Facebook groups and post, don't share into, post interesting information about your local property market, not what you've sold, not how awesome you are, not your market share, saying the average price for a 3-bedroom semi in this estate has gone from this price in the last 2 years to this price. Just thought I'd let you know. And just join the, the local primary schools have catchment areas around the schools. So talk about the local housing estate around the primary school. You're going to say, well, how's that going to get me more valuations? It's not going to get you more valuations directly, but it's going to build up your brand. I hate to say that, personal brand, reputation as the Mr. or Mrs. Property. Let's carry on. Fall Thrus, again, up to 30% last week, 27.9, 27.6, 25. That is rising. Now, before we all panic and run around like headless chickens, it was 38% for Q4. So we'll just take that with a slight pinch of salt, but we have to keep an eye on it.
Also, look, I think if we take, just go back to that one, Chris. Because if you look at the week of the year we're in, 2020 is a non-number because it was unavoidable moves, COVID, all that kind of ish. And then 21 and 22, we saw the great sort of post-COVID surge. So I think it's probably more relative to 17, 18, 19, because I think those are normal-ish years. The 20, 21, 22, not normal years at all. And I think that number is high, frighteningly high.
Yes, it is.
Unsurprising. We've got turbulent times. I get that people who weren't 100% committed could very easily become 100% not committed. But it's because that's work people have already done. That estate agents have paid to lose those, and they've paid handsomely.
Boys and girls, get them sales through. I mean, again, the difference between a good sales progressor and a normal sales progressor, I'm hearing some fantastic outsourced sales progressors on average 12 weeks. The average in the country.
There are other methods of sale as well, Chris.
Yes, there are.
Some other methods of sale bring security and speed to the process and get stuff over the line, money in the bank.
Modern method of sale, or is that what it's called? That's what it's called. Is it modern method of auction sale or something like that? I always mix that one up.
There are methods of sale which can bring security and speed to the transaction, and I think when you've got withdrawal rates of 30%, you've really got to be considering other methods that bring that speed and security.
Do check that out, boys and girls. Google it. Price changes as a percentage of listings. That's from what again, let's just move on from that one because it's, it just shows you that listings are quite, that people are moving their stock. So for every 100 listings, 69.74 are price change. So it just shows that the agents are moving their stock in terms of the listings coming in, but I'm working on around 16, 17%.
Can you see a world with AI, digitized valuation model, so open data? Can you see a world where there's never a price change again?
Well, yes. Sorry, no, because you're dealing with humans. Okay. And unfortunately, humans are emotional beasts.
I'm going to ask you again in 10 years' time. I'll be in the same chair. We'll see.
Good. But again, you're dealing with human beings, which are both emotional and logical. Okay. And you've got human greed, and XYZ gave me 350, all the other agents gave me 300. They didn't give you anything. It's just that people's perception. And happy days. Right, let's move on. We're not going to spend long on this one, boys and girls. But these are available to download. Green is good, red is bad. You can download these for your own personal benefit. That's the current national state of play. As you can quite clearly see, the national fall throughs have been getting worse with the reds. The percentage of sales fall through being steadily rising. It was around the 20% mark in March, April. Now she's up to 30%. Let's again remember that that was 38% for weekly average. There was some weeks where it was in the 40s, knocking on the door of 50. Should we go and have a look at the regional stats, then go and look at Exeter, which is our town of choice? So again, you'll see here, we're not going to spend too much on these, so please download these and have a look at them as comparing your own, but you'll see a certain tonality in all of the regions in terms of that we've got greens at the top, which means new instructions of price changes are the best, and then towards the bottom, which is around here, you've got price change, fall throughs are rising. Not so bad in London, but again, just these are the high months. I find it still fascinating that even though there isn't one UK property market, it's like a fly's eye. Everything tends to move up and down at the same sort of rates. Notice here, you've got this weekend here, which was, I think, the coronation weekend. And again, the tonality between the weeks is fascinating. There's nothing really here, but I think just look at them yourselves, boys and girls. And compare them with your own. Gross sales as a percentage of listings. Again, we're just mapping the different regions, and it quite clearly sees that the properties who are in the north of the UK have got greater percentages of gross sales to listings here. So on average, 60, 70% of the properties that are coming on the market are selling. What's in inner London, it is only 40, I mean, look, it's 38%, but we'll keep an eye on that one. Percentage
Those numbers have been discouraging all year, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, again, here, let's look at here. The number, again, we're comparing region against region. Again, you can download these and look at the numbers in a greater detail, because I appreciate on YouTube, these are not going to look particularly sexy. You can quite clearly see here that outer London is not particularly good this week, as is east of England, but northeast and Yorkshire and Humber, much better at 26, 27. Price changes as a percentage of listing. Again, we can just go on. We're not going to spend forever on these, boys and girls. You can download them to your heart's content. Right, okay. Should we any more comments before we move on and look at Exeter?
Not for me, Chris.
Okay, so we're going to go to Exeter. For those of you that don't know, we always like to spend the last 10 or 15 minutes focusing on a town or a city in the UK and really deep diving into that particular town. We'll just pull that up now. Okay, so let's go and have a look here. So the purposes of this, we are using the 20EA Insight platform, which is available for all estate agents. You can buy this platform for your own business, while you just buy your own certain postcodes. I just have access to the whole of the UK. Please don't mention my name if you are interested in it, because I get no kickbacks or commission. I'm just a bit of a fanboy on this, and the data is absolutely amazing. And I know, Kristian, you're a bit of a fanboy of this data and how it looks. So the purposes of this, Exeter is EX1, EX2, EX3, and EX4. And should we just plow in and have a go?
Let's go.
Okay, so the first off that we can quite clearly see here is on this particular graph here is the amount of stock that is available. Well, there's next door neighbour's dog. Let me just close the door. Hold on. He knows. Bro's here, mate. Right. Okay. Let's just keep an eye. We're not going to look at July because we're still halfway through only halfway through the month. But you can quite clearly see here in June there was 1,011 properties for sale in 21. She then dropped down to 771 in June 22, and we finished off 1,292 in June 23. So you can quite clearly see here that that is how the stock levels have been running in EX1 through to EX4. Kristian, I'm just going to keep talking and you just cut across whenever you want to say anything, okay?
Yeah, it's a good number of properties.
It is. So immediately if we're looking at stock levels, we're going to look, pardon me, we're going to look at new instructions in a second. It's really strange that Wilkinson Grant are head and shoulders above their competitors. They're almost like a pack of animals on their heels, and Wilkinson Grant seem to be head and shoulders above everyone else, which again is quite rare in the UK. So a big, massive round of applause there for Wilkinson Grant in terms of their marketing. Do you know Wilkinson Grant at all?
I do not. And when I saw that number, I immediately searched for them to try and understand that a little bit better, because those really are epic numbers in terms of the differential between the local market leader in terms of stock. We haven't yet talked about sales, but in terms of stock, it's a huge number. Be interesting to see what withdrawals and sales agreed look like in relationship to the amount of new instructions that they handle. But it's, yeah, I mean, in terms of their listing capabilities, they are charming many snakes.
Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. So let's just look at Fraser and Wheeler, who are again an independent, been there, they're just a estate agent only. They're at 6%. Again, they seem generally just to be nice and level. Fulfords, do you know Fulfords at all? They're part of the Connell Sequence Group.
No.
Okay, let's look at Connells themselves. Again, they seem to be growing. So again, Samuel's dropping, Bradley's, they're a large independent down there, aren't they, Bradley's? If memory serves you well, is that right?
Yeah, they're
okay.
Yeah, covering sort of, you know, Devon, Cornwall, really big agency. Bradley's, they're probably one of the largest independents that there is now.
So you've got Cooks is there. They've got a fantastic branch manager in the name of Jasmine. I've had dealings with her in the past. I've personally got no clients myself in Exeter, but I've had to do dealings with some Exeter agents. I was quite impressed. Well, not quite impressed. I was impressed with her. Then Naomi Ryan. Wow, she seems to be growing. Well done, Naomi. And Smarts again seem to be growing, and Francis Louis as well. Nice one, guys.
So where are the price on the market leaders, just out of interest, in terms of for sale pricing?
Right, well, let's go and have a look. Yeah, let's go and have a look. So so I'll just pull that up. Give me a second. Just fill for a second and I'll just get that sorted out. There we go. Here we go. Right.
I filled with an then. That was a rubbish fill. I apologize.
Don't worry. Right, we're back on. It's a good job it's a good job that I can do.
It's a good job you're filling my fills for me.
Yeah, okay, right. Here we go. So this is where we dive a little bit deeper, okay? So let's look. So I think what I'd like you to do here is that just make a mental note here or write them down. The average price of a property coming on the market since the 1st of the 1st 21 to the 9th of July on new instructions, 381. This will give us a flavour of where, you know, on all the properties where the averages are. So again, I would normally expect Wilkinson Grant to be the market leader. I would expect them to probably be middle of the road. So let's have a look. 381, and the average on Wilkinson Grant is bloody hell.
What?
Did you
What
see
button
that?
did you just press? You just pressed the wrong button there.
No, I
Whatever
didn't.
you've pressed, don't press it
No,
again.
no. Wilkinson, look, so the average for the whole of Exeter, 381. I would expect a market leader to be middle of the road, boring, average, 620. Oh, well done, guys. I mean, I think we're going to have to dive a bit deeper on this one. Let's go look at the other ones. So let's
Boom.
go. Let's go.
There you go.
Fraser 300. So again,
Yeah.
okay. So again, average is 381. We got Fraser and Wheeler there. Let's go and look at Fall Thru's there. That looks like they're lower quartile. Connell's 298. Samuel's 320. Bradley's 295. Cooksley's 299, Naomi 338, Smart's 347. Now I'm wondering here is this: do you think because look at their market share that they're dragging up the average because they're number one? Could be. I tell you what we'll do actually, just humour me on this one.
I don't get the number there, Chris. There's an answer to the question,
Well,
unless the answer to the question is that most of the agents are targeting that high volume, low value stock, and they aren't, and that there is a lot.
There's your answer. So we're just targeting now, first of the first 21 to up to 3 million. Okay. Wilkinson Grant have 29.24% of the marketplace. Now, you know me, and you know me and my affliction to right move pie charts. Yeah. But I tell you here and now, that is bloody impressive, isn't it?
It's incredible.
Look
it's
at
absolutely
this.
Incredible.
Look at this. 476 and your nearest competitor 85. Okay.
Yeah. Also, you know, you're looking there, you've got Knight Frank, Stags, Great Brand. Redrow must have just done a big job. When was the time? 21, 23. It's interesting. Redrow did 4. Okay, fair enough.
I mean, there you go. I've just knocked off the new homes just to level the playing field.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the boss there is a chap called Roger Wilkinson. I've spoken to him in the past. Roger, you and your team, you need massive well dones on that one. Let's see if let's just see if they actually sell them or not. Here we go.
Wow, that's the big question.
Oh, bloody hell. 32%. For look, there you go. Look, 29% market share for listings, sales. Okay. Right, in that case, then, I think it's only fair that we actually knock this off here and go and look at more the middle market. There's a level playing field, okay? So we're going to go, there we go. That's fair, isn't it? Here we go. Now, look. So now I've done 50 to £350,000. And now all of a sudden you've got Fraser and Wheeler. I think the chap there that runs there is Chris. Again, I spoke to him a while back. Top bloke. Again, look at this. Isn't it amazing that how one agent has sucked up all the middle to upper quartile properties, and then you've got, your Fraser and Wheelers and your Fulfords and your Bradleys bringing up the rear. So massive well done there to Chris and team at Fraser and Wheeler for that in terms of your sold with the contract. Let's just have a quick look at your instructions. Yeah, you're doing really well there, guys. It's like a two-tone market. It's like the tale of two estate agency cities. I'm sure there's a book there. Thoughts?
It's the most interesting numbers that we have looked at. When you looked at that total market, that gap between competitor one and everybody else was startling, Chris. Absolutely incredible.
And look where Wilkinson Grant are absolutely nowhere to be seen in the sub 400 mark, which, if you remember, is what the core network was for the other agencies. So I don't know what Wilkinson Grant are doing with regard to that middle to upper quartile agency, but I tell you what, boys and girls, you need to be following what they do because they must be doing something really good.
You say that. What's really interesting there, Chris, is when you look at the agents following the upper market, generally the volume is slightly lower, but the fees are way higher. But what's intriguing about those numbers is the volume was there as well as the market share. The actual instruction volume is huge. Really interesting numbers.
Let's move on. Let's have a look what else we've got. Okay, well, there we go, boys and girls. My favorite graph of all, which talks about the property market. So immediately, we're not looking.
So this is last 12-month data, is it?
This is last 12 months data. We're not looking at new instructions
Yeah.
on new market share. We're not looking at sale agreeds. The only reason a property will leave an estate agent is either she exchanges or withdraws. So I want you to totally ignore Fall Thrus and price changes. I want you to totally ignore sold subject contracts and new instructions. So immediately the average, so for an average EX1 to EX4 property, we have a exchange ratio of 61.51%. So that's for every 100 houses that come on the market in the last year, how many have actually exchanged contracts? 61.51. So Wilkinson Grant at 60. Now, I think what we'll do here is, because normally the posh end properties, their exchange ratio is much lower, I think it's only fair to Wilkinson Grant that we actually split this up into price ranges. But let's keep it whole now first, and then we can look. Fulford's at 67. Oh, massive well done for Fraser Wheeler at 83. That is an impressive number, isn't it? For every 100 houses that Fraser and Wheeler put on the market, they'll exchange contracts on 63. Connell's at 63. That's great. Well done, Connell's. Your brothers and sisters around the country will be envious of that sort of number. Samuel's at 71. Bradley's at 77. Naomi Ryan at 61. That's quite low.
It's quite a committed market. I don't know when you compare it to other markets, but there's appearance there that it's quite a committed market. What's the national average on exchange percentage, Chris?
It's about 64 at the moment.
Okay.
Okay, but remember, we're dealing with, we're in the south here. I mean, in London, it's in the 40s. Right, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll split it up again in price range. So we're going to do everything up to 350. Let's see what comes out of that one. Okay, let's go 350 to 400. And hey, presto, why is you not? There we are. Okay, so Fulfords are coming in at, they've got the market share when it comes to new instructions. Not a huge amount, but look at this. Big well done there, Chris and the team at Fraser and Wheeler at 84%. Connell's at 67, Samuel's at 73, Bradley's. This is the magic thing. We're not here to sell houses. We're here not to market them. We're to get them bloody well moved. That just shows you that if I was Fraser and Wheeler and going up against Fulfords, you could say, Mrs. Miggins, you have a 6, you know, for every 100 houses Fulfords put on, 68% chance of selling. With me, it's mid-80s. I mean, that's pretty powerful stuff. And you know, we talked about proving that you're actually worth your money. Well, stats like this that you can get.
There's a good number right there, isn't there?
Yes, this is gold, and this is the thing I love about the Insights platform. Again, I'm not here to sell it, but the gold is looking at the data and taking a step back, saying, "Hey, hold on a second, this is good stuff." And look, all of a sudden, look, the top agents here, look, 60s, 80s. Well done, Bradley's again.
You've got an 86% down the bottom there. I mean, it's just incredible, because, you know, to actually say that people could move. There's quite a few vendors that can't really move or don't really want to move or are just testing the market. So, you know, they must be qualifying their customers so well to make sure that everybody that comes on the market is doing so to move. And then they get the job done. You know, 86% is a big number.
And again, coming back to numbers, Fraser and Wheeler obviously shows that they've got a good sales progression unit. And again, I would be very interested to see how each agent in the top 10 sales progression unit compares to that number as well. Interesting, let's just have a quick look at price changes. Fulfords are at 45, Fraser and Wheeler at 30. That shows that they're obviously putting their prices on at the right sort of stock. Connell's at 46. I would expect that sort of from those guys. But it's some mixing. So again, 35.8% of properties that come on the market this year in Exeter have had their price reduced. Just have a quick look at this. The sales market in terms of growth this year, as in the last 12 months, July 22 to July 23, compared to July 21 to 22, has grown by 14.5%. So Francis Louis, you have dropped, unfortunately. Connell's have dropped. So if you're at 14, you're treading water. Wilkinson Grant at 17.2, Fraser at 20, Naomi Ryan, big round of applause, 60.8. Well done on that.
We haven't talked about an onliner yet, Chris.
No, there isn't. I mean, if you look here, the onliners have 4.1% of the stock, but it's small stuff. Best Purple Bricks at 1.8. Just see if we've got any more. Keller Williams at Okay, I don't know if they class. I don't know if 20EA class those as an online agent or not. Again, well done to Keller Williams, Luke. There, it's a new market center there, and hopefully those numbers will be getting better for you guys as time goes by. But if you there's strike at 0.38, and I'm sure if you add all those up, it comes up to 4.1. But if you look, there's
but there isn't one in the hit parade, is there? If we look at that top 10,
no, but if you add them all up, and there's lots here, then
no, I get it, but there isn't an onliner that's got a good foothold in that market yet.
No, there isn't. No, there isn't. Okay, we promised that we would.
What was if they did have one and lost it? Actually, I suppose that's the other thing. If we look back year on year.
Okay, let's go and have a look at the guys at Wilkinson Grant and seeing how big bad boy they are. And here we go. Here we go. Right then, and we can quite clearly. I mean, oh, well done, guys. I mean, look. Okay, so we've done this. I tell you, let's just knock that off. There we go. Let's just see what effects that has. Not much at all. So we're going to put that back on. So we're now looking at 400,000 to 2 million. Wilkinson Grant. This is look at this. Look at this graphic. Here we go. That looks like you know those school pictures you used to have of the solar system where you had the sun that was massive and then all the little baby planets going around. Look at this. Look at that gap. You could drive a bloody orchestra. That's huge. Look at it.
It looks like the last 3 minutes of a game of Bulldog.
Yeah, but this lad here.
I guess most of the audience won't know what that is, but yeah.
So look at it. I mean, yeah. I mean, that is. Look at it. Streets ahead. Well done, guys. Well, that is. You really have made my day on that one. So that's good. That's good news for everyone else. Sorry, good news for Wilkinson Grant. There is a huge opportunity here for the agents to get this up a market. It looks like this is almost a monopoly. Nothing wrong with that. Must be doing something good. So again, any agents who are not from Exeter, why don't you actually follow these guys, follow them on social media, and actually you can soon see what they're doing. Right, moving on. Okay, so this actually looks at what agents are putting their houses on the market for over what 20A think it's worth, and then what they're achieving. I would expect Wilkinson Grant, because they deal with upper price properties, that they will be slightly less than the average. I mean, if we just change that up and actually go something like, I don't know, 450, 500. So there you go. Now all of a sudden that changes things. It gives you a flavour of what's happening. Again,
the AVM's running 400, isn't it? Which is that I can't remember from the numbers you showed, but that was that mid-market where they featured far less than when you included those high value properties. What was their average? 680, was it?
Yeah, it was around that.
It was pretty high, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. So again, I would expect their average listing price to what they sell for to be lower than the running average, simply because they deal with the upper house properties and the AVM won't work so well. So what we can do is let's just take Wilkinson Grant out for a second, and now all of a sudden, if you think about it, those 5 or 6 agents were all in the running, and you can quite clearly see that they are in all very similar. So Fall Thrus would, in the last year, would have got 404 for a property that was worth 400, 403.
Samuel's number's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Notice that they're not overvaluing, because this here is the overvaluing. Whilst URPAD on Devon, they seem to be 5% on average over what 20EA think it's worth. This is a great platform when you're actually at the punter's house and you can actually say, Mrs. Miggins, let's just say for argument's sake, I was Fulford's, or Fraser, let's go Fraser Wheeler, Mrs. Miggins, I will get you 403,000 for, which is, if you think compared to that one, £3,900 more than it's about £3,900 more for your home. So that's why you're paying me £1,000. And again, what I would say to you is this: is that if that's the power of this 20EA Insights platform. It's not a lot of money, and you can actually prove that you are worth your fee using independent information like this. Let's move on. We actually said, how long does it take for someone to sell a house? And that's what this software tells you to do. And you can quite clearly see that Butt Estates and Peg Estates seem to sell houses a little bit quicker. We've got Cookses at 39. We've got Smarts at 42. Fulfords at 46. Wilkinson Grant at 47. And then if you put them all together, you can quite clearly say here that if you wanted to sell quickly, Butt Estates, Peggs and Samuels will sell it in average of around, here we go, we'll just move that around 137 days, somewhere around there, whilst Connells will sell it in 197 days. So again, if you need going to evaluation, you need to prove that you can sell houses quicker, this just show you that. We'll have a final look at the lettings now. The letting software is a bit all over the place because you agents haven't been putting your listings on because you didn't want all the hundreds of people shouting at you. But it obviously shows here that Cardens Residential seem to be the bad boys here when it comes. And what is, I mean, again,
and there's an onliner.
Open rent, but I would expect that. I mean, again, what we need to find out is that there is I believe there's a university in Exeter, so there is going to be the student market is going to affect this slightly. And again, we haven't, so be aware of that. Smarts, Wilkinson, Grant, Fulfords, yeah, they're all there. Again, I need to take this with a slight pinch of salt in terms of, interestingly, look, open rent had a growth of 71%. So there must be an awful lot of landlords who are swapping over and doing it themselves. So just be aware of that, letting agents. Any final thoughts on this before we wrap this up, Kristian?
The only thing I couldn't work out was platform down at the bottom, but if I actually Google them, they've reinvented the lettings experience with smart tech and responsive something or other, which makes me wonder whether they're actually a letting agent or they're a sort of, I don't know, build to rent or similar type thing, because they're not actually closing down the rest of the day today.
Okay, so again, Dexter's are very, very good at that. They won't mark their property sold subject to contract, which means that they looks like they have no sales or no exchanges. That's just a personal choice on theirs. So again, I always tend to look at more like the instructions and not whether the letter reads, because in this market, everything's going to let. So I, look at your letter greets and get a flavour. We'll just have a quick look at just see who else is out there. Again, agents are not putting their properties on the market, so we're gonna have to take some of this with a slight pinch of salt, but it just gives you a flavour of the market. Okay, I think we're up the hour or nearest, just over it. So any final thoughts on either Exeter or this, or what you saw in the national or regional pictures?
Only that I think as we move through the year, we've got to keep a real eye on what the final figure is going to be in terms of completed transactions for the year in play.
I'm calling 880.
Are you? So you've gone low. Yeah. And I think the big take out there is, if prices are a little bit of a sensitive point and they may be chipping a little bit, agents have got to really box clever to get committed sellers on good fees, same as any other market. But I think they've got to make sure they follow that process, because there's less to go around this year, it seems.
Indeed, I'll just show you why I'm calling 880. And again, we're not going to know this until the stats are actually out. But there you go, we're on week 27 and we're at 461. So I'm just basing it there, late 800s, last year 1.1, which means estate agents, your costs have gone up. Your costs have gone up. The amount of property is house prices are irrelevant. It's all about transaction numbers. As an estate agent, you need a bigger slice of the pie. What are you doing to get more of a smaller pie? What are you doing on social media? It shocks me that most of you are listing, market share. Look how big our willies are. Look at his testimonial. The magic, it shocks me to bit. I mean, I teach estate and letting agents, especially letting agents, how to attract landlords to their agency. And unfortunately, it does bring in residential sales as well. But talk about the property market to local people.
Well, I think also, Chris, we're in that sort of market where, like you've just said, fixed costs have gone up. I think it's a market where you walk away from deals where the price expectation is far higher than the market will sustain, and you get them on the back run, and you keep touting them until they come back to you.
Yeah, and that's the magic thing. Is this estate agents are not
lower price, higher fee,
are not very good. If your listers, how often are your listers ringing up Lost Vows? Because if you're waiting 8 weeks and give them a call, hey up, Mrs. Miggins, how you doing? You've lost it already. You've got to ring up those lost vendors more often. How do you do that? Why don't you send them a text every week? Go on to what you know what they're looking for. Why don't you send them a Rightmove link of a property that they're looking for?
And there are brilliantly clever prospecting tools available to allow you to letter drop people who you know you could service better than the market is presently.
Or WhatsApp, you could send a message and pictures. You could also send them properties that are like the one they're selling. Mrs. Miggins, you have a 4-bed house on the XYZ estate. Just saw this come on the market with Fall Thrus. Thought you might want to know because it's competitors of yours. The magic thing is this: you are out communicating their existing agent, and if they're not going to sell and you're giving without expectation of return, your chances will go through the roof, won't they?
I think that's a great note to leave it on. Thank you, Chris. Lovely to see you.
Kristian, as always, thank you, you awesomeness of an estate agency beast. I wish you well, but more importantly, I wish you, the viewing public, for your attention. Please make any suggestions on towns that you want us to have a look at. We do have a long list of towns, but keep adding them because we'll eventually get to that town. If you've got any questions or comments, good, or more especially constructive, hey, if you want to troll us, even troll us, then do put your comments in the YouTube comments. Thank you very much for your time today, and thank you, Kristian.
See you soon. Take care.